We're constantly told that success requires, like 4D chess.
Right. Oh, yeah. Endless calculation.
Exactly. Just constantly measuring ROI and overthinking every single move we make. But what if the ultimate cheat code to navigating life is actually the exact opposite?
Right, which sounds crazy to us today.
It does. What if operating with zero calculation and just pure motives is actually the most penetrating force in the universe?
It completely flips the modern playbook on its head, honestly. And frankly, it just exposes how much energy we waste trying to, outsmart our own lives.
Yeah, we definitely do. So before we get into unpacking all of that, a quick shout out to everyone listening. You can actually now download our app, YOAYOW, right from the Apple App Store.
It's finally out there.
It is. And the book companion for today's topic, which is called The Mind Key to the I Ching, is officially available on Amazon Books, too. Definitely check those out. They really help contextualize what we talk about here.
Highly recommend grabbing the book, yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a deep dive into some fascinating sources, like historical translations and modern psychological analyses, to explore Hexagram 25 of the I Ching.
Also known as Wang, right?
Right, Wang, which, in English, roughly translates to innocence, or the unexpected.
And since our listeners are already pretty familiar with the standard trigram associations, I think we can probably skip the basic definitions and just jump straight into the synthesis of the imagery.
Let's do it. Paint the picture for us.
So we're dealing with thunder positioned beneath heaven. Now, normally, we think of thunder as this massive, visible, booming action, right?
Yeah, like a huge storm rolling in.
Exactly. But the sources we're looking at today argue that thunder in this specific context isn't really about the action itself. It's actually about the cognitive state that precedes the action.
Right, because heaven represents objective reality, like the clear, cloudless sky of undeniable natural laws.
Yes, exactly. Zero illusions.
So when you place that pure, upward-bursting energy of thunder underneath a space with absolutely no illusions, you get a very specific psychological state.
It's that, that crisp clarity you feel in the air right after a thunderstorm passes?
Oh, yeah. It just smells clean.
Right. That's the vibe. No hidden agendas, no complicated ROI spreadsheets running in the back of your mind, just pure drive meeting the objective rules of the world.
It's kind of like finally closing out of 50 browser tabs in your brain.
Yeah.
And just, doing the thing you love because it feels right.
What's really fascinating here is how this applies to the very first impulse we have to do something, which is represented by the first line of the hexagram.
The first thought.
Exactly. The purest, fastest way to initiate any action is without cognitive friction. Think about it like the physical mechanics of drag.
Okay, aerodynamic drag.
Yeah. When your first thought is pure, like, this piece of code is broken, I should fix it, or my neighbor is struggling with those groceries, I'll go grab a bag, that impulse encounters zero internal resistance.
But in our modern, hyper-optimized environment, particularly here in the West, we immediately introduce that drag.
Oh, instantly.
We see the broken code and we think, if I fix this, should I CC my manager so they know I stayed late?
Will this help my performance review in Q3?
Exactly. We take this perfectly pure impulse and instantly bog it down with a massive payload of future expectations.
And the moment you start negotiating with yourself about the payoff, you drain your own battery.
It's exhausting.
It really is, because you are forcing your brain to process two completely different timelines simultaneously. You've got the present action of writing the code, and then the future simulation of your boss's reaction.
Right, which takes a ton of mental energy.
It requires immense computational power, and it leaves you exhausted before you've even typed a single line of code.
Okay, so the goal is to protect the purity of that initial spark. But let's follow the timeline a bit here.
Sure.
Say, I've initiated the action purely. I'm doing the work. The texts then move into this concept of not expecting the harvest while you're still plowing the field.
The trap of the instant harvest, yeah.
Yeah. And to translate that to a modern scenario, this sounds exactly like going to the gym on January 1st, doing like one set of bicep curls, and then immediately stepping on the scale.
Or checking the mirror to see if you suddenly look like a fitness model.
Right. Which we've all done, let's be honest.
Oh, 100%. And the mechanics behind why that gym scenario fails are actually deeply tied to dopamine.
Really? How so?
Well, when you are constantly checking the mirror, you are outsourcing your dopamine reward to an outcome that just hasn't materialized yet.
Because it's only been one workout.
Exactly. So when the outcome isn't there, your brain experiences a dopamine deficit. And we feel that deficit as a massive crash in motivation.
Oh, wow. So you essentially torture yourself with the anxiety of an uncertain future.
That's exactly it. To survive a long journey, you have to mentally decouple the action from the outcome. You focus purely on the immediate step.
The plowing.
The plowing, the coding, the parenting, whatever it is. You find the neurochemical reward in the execution of the task itself. If you are constantly pulling up the seeds to see if they've sprouted, you literally kill the crop.
Okay, let me push back on that a little bit, though.
Go for it.
As a concept, just focus on the present is great if you're on, like, a silent meditation retreat.
Yeah.
But in reality, we have mortgages to pay.
Sure. Real-life pressures.
Right? We have quarterly targets.
Yeah.
How do you actually shut off that data tracking dashboard in your mind when your livelihood literally depends on the harvest?
This raises an important question, and it really comes down to a shift in how we define control.
Okay.
The philosophy doesn't say you shouldn't want a harvest. It's not anti-success. It says that obsessing over the harvest doesn't actually make the crops grow any faster.
Ah, I see.
The obsessive tracking is just an illusion of control. The only thing you actually control is the quality of the plowing. So you redirect all that anxious, future-oriented energy back into the physical act of digging the trench.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's say I managed to do that. I've conquered my internal resistance.
Yeah.
I'm in a pure flow state. I'm plowing the field with zero expectations.
You in the zone.
I am incredibly zen. But now my pure intention collides with the external world. What happens when I'm doing everything right, but someone else introduces chaos?
Right. The reality of randomness. The historical texts give us a brilliant and honestly brutal illustration of this in the third line of the hexagram.
The story of the stolen cow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So someone ties their cow to a post on the side of a road. A completely random passerby comes along and steals it.
Just a totally random crime of opportunity.
Exactly. But the local villagers who are just minding their own business get blamed by the authorities, and they suffer the consequences.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we see the modern equivalent of this every single day.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you're driving perfectly, you're following all the traffic laws, and you park your car perfectly between the lines at the grocery store.
Doing everything right.
Right. And then out of nowhere, a rogue shopping cart catches a gust of wind, rolls all the way across the parking lot, and just dents your bumper.
And what is the immediate human reaction to the rogue shopping cart? We search for meaning.
We really do. We're like, why did this happen to me today?
Is the universe punishing me because I snapped at the barista this morning?
Yes. We desperately want to find a karmic reason. We lean so hard into this just world fallacy where good things happen to good people, and if my bumper got dented, there must be like a cosmic ledger balancing itself out.
We crave that karmic explanation because reasons give us a sense of safety.
Right. If we know why, we can fix it.
Exactly. If we can figure out why it happened, we think we can prevent it next time. But the psychological reality check of Wang, which, remember, translates to both innocence and unexpected disaster, is that there is no hidden meaning.
Sometimes a dent is just a dent.
Exactly. When you operate in a massive, chaotic system with billions of moving variables, random negative events are just a mathematical certainty.
You know, that is actually incredibly liberating.
It takes so much pressure off the individual ego, doesn't it?
It really does. Because instead of spiraling into this victim mentality or, replaying the parking lot scenario in your head for 3 weeks trying to find your own flaw, you just accept it.
It's the wear and tear cost of doing business in a physical reality.
Right. Mature minds can process cause and effect when they make a mistake, but they can also process random probability without taking it personally. You just pay the body shop and you move on.
You refuse to let a random variable corrupt your internal baseline.
Which perfectly sets up the next phase. So we've processed the random shopping carts, but what about sustained systemic pressure?
Moving into the upper trigram.
Right, heaven, which represents the broader environment, the complex rules, the bureaucracy. Let's talk about line 4.
This is where the application gets incredibly strategic. Imagine a highly calculated Machiavellian work environment.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. People are cutting corners, office politics are rampant, toxic gossip is just the norm.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And the standard advice is usually either to fight the system and try to change the company culture, or you just adapt, play the game, and watch your back.
But the strategy recommended in the fourth line of the hexagram is neither of those things. The guidance is actually to act as a static anchor.
The static anchor.
Oh.
Okay, but how does being authentic actually serve as a defense mechanism in a toxic environment? Because my instinct would be that the wolves would just eat you alive if you don't play the game.
It sounds counterintuitive, I know, but Think about it in terms of network theory and computational load.
Okay, computational load.
When people play office politics, they are maintaining a massive web of fictions. They have to remember what they told to whom, who they secretly allied with, which emails they BCC'd to cover their tracks.
It's exhausting just to describe.
It is a highly unstable, high-energy state. It takes constant work to maintain.
Right.
But if you hold your pure baseline, if you're simply transparent, you do your work, and you refuse to engage in all those petty calculations, you actually become the hardest node in the network to compromise.
Because there's nothing to expose.
Exactly. You have zero computational load because you are just telling the truth. You don't have to remember your lies.
Oh, wow.
And eventually, the toxic system breaks against you because a complex web of lies cannot gain leverage on a static anchor of truth. Being genuine is literally the lowest cost, highest durability defense mechanism you can possibly deploy.
I really buy that for interpersonal dynamics. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But here is where I really struggle with the source material, specifically when we look at the fifth line.
The advice on illness.
Yeah. The text advises that when a random illness strikes, you should do nothing. No medicine.
It's a tough pill to swallow, pun intended.
Right. As someone who runs a business, if my app downloads drop 15% on a Tuesday, or if my own personal energy levels plummet for a few days, doing nothing feels like professional negligence.
It feels wrong.
It feels terrible. My immediate instinct is to panic, pivot the marketing strategy, and micromanage every single thing until the numbers go back up.
And that panic is exactly what the text is warning against. This raises an important question about how we view data. We have to differentiate between a structural failure, like the stolen cow, and a systemic fluctuation.
Okay.
A random illness is just a fluctuation.
But how do you tell the difference in the moment? Because when you're in it, a dip feels like a crash.
You do it by looking at the underlying health of the system. If you have a fundamentally healthy company, a healthy body or solid relationship, and it experiences a sudden minor blip without any clear structural cause, the absolute worst thing you can do is intervene aggressively.
It's like restructuring your entire sales department because of one bad week of cold calls.
Exactly. Or drastically changing your diet and starting 5 new supplements just because you woke up tired one morning.
Guilty as charged on that one.
We all are. But biological systems, economic markets, human relationships, they all have built-in homeostasis, a self-healing mechanism.
They want to return to a baseline.
Right. When you introduce drastic new variables to hypermanage a minor fluctuation, you actually disrupt that natural balance.
It's kind of like having a mild fever. The fever itself is the body's self-correcting mechanism. If I aggressively suppress the fever with medication, I might actually keep the underlying virus alive longer.
That is a perfect analogy. The hardest discipline in leadership, or honestly just in managing your own life, is looking at a slight dip in metrics, feeling that huge adrenaline spike that screams, do something, and consciously choosing to just step back.
You just have to sit on your hands.
You leave some blank space. You watch the data regress to the mean. It runs entirely counter to our modern hustle culture that demands constant optimization. But over-medicating a healthy system is how you accidentally burn the house down just to kill a spider.
I love that. Burn the house down to kill a spider. Okay, I can see the wisdom in trusting the system to self-correct, but surely this let it flow, hold the line mindset has a limit, right?
It does.
Because passion and pure intentions can't solve everything. Which brings us to the final line of the hexagram. Line 6, the hard ceiling.
Right. We're heavily conditioned by this cultural narrative that says if your motives are pure and you just grind hard enough, you can break through absolutely any barrier.
We love a good underdog story where sheer willpower conquers reality.
But the historical texts give us a very necessary, very sobering reality check here. Objective reality has hard boundaries, no matter how pure your intentions are.
So what does this all mean in practice?
Think about it like the service ceiling of an aircraft. An airplane might have a perfect engine, it's burning perfectly pure fuel, the pilot is highly skilled.
Everything is optimal.
Everything is optimal. But at a certain altitude, the atmosphere simply becomes too thin. There just isn't enough oxygen to generate lift or feed the engines.
And pushing the throttle harder at that altitude doesn't make you go higher. It just causes the engine to stall and the plane to fall out of the sky.
Exactly. If a startup has hit a hard market ceiling where the consumer demand simply doesn't exist, or if your physical body is utterly exhausted after working a 60-hour week, your pure passion does not bend the laws of physics or economics.
It's just a wall.
It is an immovable object. Pushing forward with good intentions against an immovable object won't lead to a breakthrough. It will only cause a catastrophic crash.
So what is the actionable takeaway when we hit that wall? Because society tells us that quitting is a moral failure. If you stop, you're a loser.
True maturity is recognizing the difference between a temporary hurdle and an objective limit. When you reach the absolute limit of a situation, the wisest action is to power down the engine.
Just stop.
Just stop. And the real mastery is doing it without a shred of regret or self-flagellation. You simply acknowledge, I operated purely, I followed the mechanics to their furthest logical point, and I have met the boundaries of nature.
You respect the ceiling. That completely redefines how we process effort and failure. It's not about giving up, it's about acknowledging reality. Looking back at the arc we've traced today through Wang, we started by protecting the sheer, uncalculated joy of the initial impulse, keeping it free from the drag of future expectations.
And then we explored the dopamine traps of constantly checking for the harvest, right? And why finding the reward in the plowing itself is the only way to sustain long-term momentum.
Yeah, and we learned to process the rogue shopping carts of life without spiraling into the just world fallacy. We saw how authenticity acts as this computational fortress against toxic office politics, and we resisted the urge to aggressively over-medicate the natural fluctuations in our healthy systems.
And finally, we dismantled the toxic positivity of never give up, replacing it with the wisdom of the aerodynamic stall, basically, knowing when to gracefully power down the engines.
It provides such a complete framework for moving through the world with the absolute minimum amount of unnecessary friction. It's like we've been driving with the emergency brake on for years, trying to calculate every rotation of the tires, and this philosophy just tells us to release the brake.
It's incredibly freeing, and if we zoom out and connect this to the broader sequence of the I Ching, it sets up a truly provocative thought for you to take away.
Alrighty, let's hear it.
So, the very next hexagram in the sequence is Da Chu, which translates to great accumulation.
The great accumulation. Okay, how does Wu Wang or Innocence set the stage for that?
Think about the immense reservoir of mental and emotional energy you burn through on a daily basis.
It's a lot.
It's massive. The energy spent calculating office politics, stressing over outcomes you can't control, manufacturing karmic reasons for random bad luck, fighting against immovable realities.
A constantly leaking energy.
Exactly. If you apply this framework and suddenly plug all of those cognitive leaks, what happens to all that energy?
It doesn't just disappear, it pools.
It accumulates. It accumulates into a massive, unstoppable force. So the question you're left with is, once you stop bleeding out your drive on useless calculations, where are you going to direct that pure power?
I love that. Leaving the friction behind, letting the storm build, and figuring out where to unleash it. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. Just a gentle reminder for you as you go about your week. You don't always need a spreadsheet or a hyper-optimized strategic plan to validate your next good idea.
You really don't.
Sometimes you just need to drop the calculations, step out into the clear sky, and let the thunder roll. Catch you next time.